Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome back to your economics class. And today we have brought a topic to learn market structure. What kind of market structures are there usually we can see in the economy? And today that's going to be our part of discussion. So we are all familiar with the word market. When we talk about the market, we are eventually talking about the buyers and sellers. So wherever you see the buyers and sellers, that makes a market, especially when they are exchanging goods and services. It is not necessary, dear students, that market can be a place. It is anywhere where the buyers and sellers are exchanging goods and services are going to consider as a market. So why do you think that the market can be without a place? Like sometimes you are buying goods and services online, virtually. So you don't go to any place, you buy things while sitting back at home. So if you are buying it online, asking a seller to deliver you at your home, again, this is going to be known as a market. So it means that the market is eventually considered as a place, it's place or not. It's actually about a group of people who are buying and selling with each other. So anywhere where you find the word buyers and sellers, it is actually depicting a market. That's why when we talk about the market diagram, we take demand and supply, and we know all that the demand and supply belongs to buyers and sellers, or in other words, consumers and producers. So wherever you find them both together while exchanging goods and services, that's a market. Now, today we are going to talk about its structure, like what kind of structures markets are divided. So yes, the economists eventually have divided market structure. Now, when we talk about the market structure, or a structure is actually shows something, an appearance of something. Like if somebody talks to you about the structure of a building, what is the structure of the building of your home? So you can clearly say that my building or a home structure is based on 2 stories. It has this much rooms and this have this lawn, and this has this space for the parking, etc., etc. That's the structure of your home. But when we talk about the structure of market, we're actually talking about how many buyers and how many sellers. That is the structure of any market, dear students. Now, as per our syllabus, we have 2 structures which we can read and we will go through. What are those 2 structures? Out of that, we have one known as perfect competition or competitive market. And another structure which we are going to go through is monopolies. These are the names of the market structures. The perfect competition or perfectly competitive firms or monopoly firms. So how do we understand them? Today our content is about the perfect competitive market structure, how the buyers and sellers actually exist. So to understand it better, the perfect market, how does it exist and which market structure we can identify that that is a market, or if it's a perfect market, or is it somebody else. So that all depends upon some of the key characteristics, some of the features that shows that this market structure belongs to perfect competition. So we are going to discuss today perfect competitive market structures characteristics, and we will put them in our real life. that what are the various markets where buyers and sellers are exchanging with each other, and why we call them perfect competitive, neither somebody else. So you got to understand this, that by the end of the session of this whole topic, the market structure, we would be able to identify which structure of market belongs to which. Like somebody asked you that you go to a mobile market where you find the buyers and sellers. Do you think the mobile market is a perfect competitive, or is it the monopoly, or is it something else? So that is going to be the part of our discussion. And let's say if we have some other markets like flowers or florists, we have vegetable markets, let's say we have transportation market, and we have many other types. So where do they fall? Is it the perfect competitive or what? That is going to be the part of our discussion. So let's start with the perfect competitive and its characteristics. So I'm going to highlight the salient feature or characteristics of perfect competitive. So monopoly is gone right now for a while, and the market structure is our topic. And let's see what are the things which we need to know about the perfect competitive firm. The very first characteristic for the perfect competitive is that there are some large numbers of buyers and sellers. All right, we know that the market is structured based on the buyers and sellers. So we have to start with this first characteristic, that the buyers and sellers are in large number, both of them. Like sometimes we see certain market structures which might have lesser sellers but more buyers. Sometimes we find that there are less buyers but there are more sellers. We do have such kind of market structures, but maybe it's not going to be the part of discussion for this year. But meanwhile, we are going to focus on these two, perfect competitive, and which tells us that these are those market structures where you find large number of buyers and large number of sellers. So let's assume that how many buyers and sellers? Okay, approximately we can say from 200 to 400 buyers and sellers. Okay, we can assume that any where you find that there are buyers are in number of 200 to 400, then we are going to find out that the sellers are almost in the same numbers. So we are going to find out that which type of market structures are there, but after, when we are going to put all the points on the board. So our next entry in the perfect competition characteristic is that there is a free entry and exit of the firm from the market or from the industry. Free entry and exit. When we talk about the free entry, it means that it's not difficult to enter or start the business in this market structure. It's relatively very easy to work, and anybody who wants to start a business, he can jump in and he can start the business. And it's not that difficult to leave it as well. Like if you will leave, it will not affect the market structure because there are numerous people who would be working on your behalf, or they might replace you. So this type of market structure must have a free entry and exit of the firm in the industry or the market. So we know what is the difference between industry and firm. Industry is the sum of all the firms, right? So if any part of this industry, any firm or any component, it leaves, it doesn't affect on the market. Number three, which is very interesting, that the prices and the product are homogeneous. Homogeneous. Homogeneous means something alike, same. So it means that the prices of the product in such market are almost same. Like if there are 400 sellers, they are going to give the same price for their product. There is no change. And the products are also same. Like you cannot differentiate them that this belongs to this particular firm. So the situation is getting difficult, right? But right after I'm going to put an example over here, we are going to implement all these points on these characteristics, and we will find out that is it really a true example of perfect competition or not. But let's have two more points, which is the part of the perfect competition, and then we will put the example, right? Okay, so we have fourth characteristic, that there is a perfect knowledge or information in the market, or let's say information to buyers and sellers. They have the perfect knowledge about the market condition, dear students. Like the market, the buyers and sellers are totally familiar that how the prices are fluctuating. If it changes, the most of the sellers are going to react accordingly. They are very well aware. And that is one reason that third point is actually justified. If somebody tries to reduce the prices, let's suppose if there are 5 or 3 firms, 1, 2, 3 firms, and all these 3 firms are eventually charging a price of $10, let's say, for a product. Now, this is something which is known as a homogeneous price, alike. But let's say if the firm 2 decides that it's going to reduce its price from $8 from 10. What happens, dear students? That these 2 are going to react accordingly. How would they know? They would definitely know that the firm 2 is gaining more buyers, is gaining more customers, is gaining more market share just because of the fall in the price. So what happens? They are going to reduce their prices to $8 as well, even if they face loss. Why? Because they don't want to lose their customers. So as you see that by any means, the buyers and the sellers are going to have a knowledge in the market that how the prices are moving, because that gives them a survival. If they don't care about in their surrounding, they are going to be out of the industry or the market, doesn't he? Like if somebody still persists that I'm going to remain with 10 and I don't care that somebody, then he's definitely going to lose his customer, facing losses, and ultimately going out from the industry or the market. So that's why every seller needs to have a perfect knowledge and information in the market. And same goes with the buyers. Like the buyers need to be having a perfect knowledge in the market. Let's say if somebody comes in the market and he is interacted with firm 1 and he says, okay, I will charge $10. But if he's lacking the knowledge, dear students, what happens? That he is going to lose the actual price which other 2 firms are charging. So that means that if he's not gaining the information from the market, he's not having the perfect knowledge in the market conditions, so then this is not going to be a perfect market and they are going to suffer. Okay, the last but not the least is the firms are usually price takers. Price takers. Like you could see from this example once again. Like if somebody is reducing the prices, like if the firm 2 reduces price from 10 to $8 and firm 3 responds it that way, firm 1 is going to be forced to reduce its price, dear students. It means that according to the market condition, they are the price takers. They cannot set the price according to their will. If somebody say, no, I'm going to charge a higher price, then he may lose his customers. Why? Because there are a number of sellers, and if one is increasing the price, you have other options to go for. You can contact other sellers who will sell you on the competitive price, which is set in the market by the demand and supply forces. So that was the 5th point. And we can add one more point, that the resources are free. They have free mobility. Now this is something very interesting. Like free mobility, and we know the word when we talk about mobility of the resources, we have learned about the mobility of labor, like the labor can mobile from one profession to another, from one industry to another, and from one location to another. Same goes with the resources in this market. There is a free mobility of them. Like resources are not said to be immobile in this. They are easy to mobile from one product to another, right? So now, after having all this discussion together, now give me some opportunity that we could set an example before here, and we can decide either it's a perfect competition or not. So let's assume an example right now. I'm putting the very first, which is very familiar. Let's say if we take example like Pepsi beverages. Now this is a company, of course, PepsiCo or Pepsi beverage. What is their product? It's to sell the beverages, right? This is what they're selling. Now consider, are they fitting in this, and can we say that the Pepsi is one of the perfect competitive, if it's the part of the perfect competitive market structure? Let's think about it. Okay, now let's put it if it's true. Do you see that the Pepsi is in this category? We do understand that there are a large number of buyers. We have Pepsi lovers and Pepsi fans. But what about the sellers? Do you think that they're also in large number over there? I guess not, because there are a few beverages which we see in the market. We don't see like 200 different companies making them, right? So that means that the very first property or characteristic of doesn't set to Pepsi beverages, right? Number 2, free entry and exit of the firm. Do you think it's very free? It's easy to set up a very large setup like this? The joint stock companies has always advised us that it's not easy to form. So the very first thing which tells us that making a very large firm doesn't mean that it could have a free entry. It has to pay something to enter in the market. It can be in the shape of forming it. It can be in the shape of making a huge advertisement to make people loyal of your product. So there are a number of factors which tells us that it's not easy to introduce any beverage in the market structure over there. All right, so there is no free entry. And exit, okay. And let's suppose, just imagine if the Pepsi is stable and tomorrow you hear a news that the Pepsi is saying that we are saying a goodbye to you. So is it easy for you to exit from the firm? Not at all. So it means that sometimes Pepsi as a brand, it's sometimes not easy to enter as a brand. It's not easy to exit from the industry. Okay, now price and product are homogeneous. Okay, is it true that the prices are homogeneous of these products? Okay, that somehow sets with the Pepsi that the prices are homogeneous to some extent, but the product is not homogeneous. It's not alike. You can differentiate that. How? If you have, let's say, a bottle of Pepsi, and on the same you have a bottle of Coke. So can somebody ask you that please pick up any cold drink or beverage? So you must ask, which one? Is it Coke or Pepsi? That means that you can differentiate between them. So it's not homogeneous. So this property actually again violates that Pepsi, Coke, or any branded item is not falling in the market structure of perfect competitive. Right? Good. Perfect knowledge about and information to the buyers. Okay, to some extent, fine. There can be a knowledge, Pepsi beverage and Coke, they can be having a perfect knowledge in the market, and that's how they behave as well. If let's say Pepsi tries to reduce the price, that it is reduced rupees 5, let's say in some special season like in Ramadan. So what happens? Similarly, Coke is also behaving such a way because they are both competitors. So to some extent, they are following the information and the market trends in the market. All right. Okay. Firms are usually price takers. Right. Price takers. In some case, Pepsi, yes, if they can be influenced to each other, they can. Mostly, if they make some kind of an agreement that we are only two in the market, we have a greater market share in it, and we have more buyers in the market. So why do we fight on the basis of prices? So what we can do, we can make an agreement that we are not going to reduce that much and affect each other profit. So let's work on some other production techniques and our marketing that we could gain more market share. All right. Resources have free mobility. Now, let's say the Pepsi beverages decides that they are going to shift themselves from beverage industries to something else. So it's sometimes difficult for them because they have the resources which are endowed or allocated to make beverages. But now if they want to change, then those resources cannot be doing some other type of job. Now, again, we are coming back. Then what is the answer? What is now every brand you see around you, even if it's the mobiles, even if it's the automobiles, they are all branded. There are very few in the market, maybe 3, 4, or 5 or 10, but they are not 200. So which is that particular product or market which you see? So the answer is, first of all, before I give the example on the board, you must remember one thing, dear students, that we know that there is no perfect, there is nothing perfect in this world. We do all believe that, right? So it means if there is nothing perfect, but maybe something near to perfect. So we have a nearest examples which can display or exhibit the characteristics of perfect competition. So what are they? I'm starting with first example. A vegetable market. I wonder that somebody has visited the vegetable market. Now, this is not the vegetable market which we usually see around in our markets. This vegetable market is somewhere is located outside in the outskirts of Sialkot city. You can, maybe somebody might have visited there. If you just go over there, you may find that there are a large number of buyers and there are a large number of sellers over there. Number one. And free entry and exit of the firm. Anybody can go and he can set up his any vegetable in which he wants to sell, and nobody is going to ask him that why he's doing that. So it's free to enter and it's free to exit. If somebody wants to change his product, then definitely he can do that. Okay, second, third, the prices and products, are they homogeneous? Are they? Yes, they are. If let's say there are almost 30 people selling potatoes, if they're selling, so everybody, you cannot differentiate them. Like if one firm or one person is selling that, the other is selling the same, and that's the reason they are homogeneous, they are alike. You cannot differentiate them that this belongs to this company and this belongs to this, because they are not labeled. That's the reason. So it means any unlabeled products such as like vegetables, they are going to be considered as perfect market. And since they are homogeneous, the prices would be same. But if they are not homogeneous, then their prices may vary. That's why sometimes when you go and visit there, you might find like A grade vegetables, you find B grade vegetables. So their rates are varying. But let's say if everybody's selling the B grade, their price is same. So vegetable market is fulfilling the next property, that is third property, that the prices and products are homogeneous. Perfect knowledge and information to the buyers. Everybody's around there and everybody could see that how the prices are moving, and the customers are very smart enough. They go and ask each seller just to check if the prices are similar, and they are going to pick up the product wherever, whichever the seller is more giving them attraction, how they convince them, right? Okay, so firms are usually price takers. Obviously, nobody can set the price. Everybody is taking the prices. Resources have free mobility. Let's say if somebody is selling the potatoes one week, another week he can also sell tomatoes, right? They can. So it means it's a free mobility of selling the product. Or let's say if he doesn't want to sell the vegetables, he can sell the fruits as well. So that is something that is no free. So vegetable market is one nearest example which we can code that it's a perfect competitive firm. Right, G? Okay, so it means that do we have only these type of the, or do we have something, because this is something which belongs to the primary sector, right? The primary production, all the vegetables and all the agro-based products, are only these are the perfect competition. And let's say somebody asks you, find an example from a tertiary sector. How is it possible? Is it possible to have an example from the services sector? Do you think that the services sector can fulfill the perfect competition? Yes. If we just take example of like transportation, like taxis, rickshaws. If you want to get transport, then if there are a number of taxis and rickshaws over there, let's say about 200, and there are a number of buyers, then you can fulfill all these characteristics together. All right. So summing up today's discussion, we actually found out what is the market structure, and the market structure is based on the buyers and sellers. And if we could clearly see the buyers and sellers are in large number, then this large number represent a perfectly competitive, where the firms have free entry and exit from the firm, and the prices of the products are homogeneous, they are alike. Everybody has the perfect knowledge or information in the market condition. Buyers are usually price takers. Resources are freely mobile. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take the questions after a while. And we, at the moment, I'm not sending you any worksheet. I'm leaving it for tomorrow for your weekend. So there's another thing which we are going to study, which is linked to that. That is how the perfect competition firm behaves in the normal routine, in the real life. So that's going to be our topic for tomorrow. I'll see you then. You take care. Allah Hafiz.